The life of an Imperial pilot was one of strict military protocol and a very real probability that you would die a painful death in the dark emptiness of space. However, there was no lack of people wanting to sign up for the Imperial Navy. But why is this, and why was life so bleak for Imperial pilots? Now, firstly, let's talk about why so many people wanted to be Imperial pilots. Simply put, the Navy advertised itself very much as the place for adventure. As we saw on Corellia when Han Solo applied, it was all about seeing distant planets and traversing the stars, flying your very own spaceship. A very nice prospect, especially those stuck on a pretty uncharted or economically impoverished world. More so than, say, the military, where you'd likely spend years stationed on one planet and never really do anything, apart from maybe get shot at by aliens. The Navy appeared fun and intriguing to an extent. You see, despite Star Wars being a galaxy of infinite worlds and adventure, you'd be surprised how very few people ever actually left their home planet, and probably never even went inside of a spaceship. Unfortunately, the Navy was rarely like this. It was mostly just a joyless mediocrity, just living inside a massive metal box in space, and I can imagine the view got pretty boring after a while. In relation to the pilots, someone such as a comms officer would probably count themselves lucky, though. Imperial Starfighter Corps was largely used as fodder. As we've discussed many times before, the Imperial's tactics was normally simply to throw lives at a problem until it goes away, and this led to the suffering of countless people. And it was the exact same for the Navy as well. First, let's discuss the ships. Nearly all Imperial fighters were using part of the TIE range, which was produced by Kuat Drive Yards. Now, Kuat is actually a very well-known brand, and they've produced very impressive ships both for the Republic and the Empire. However, they enjoyed somewhat of a monopoly of all TIE products and most vehicles used in the Empire. And somewhere along the line they must have realised the more ships that get destroyed, the more need to be replaced, using more profits. And the TIE Fighter was no exception. These things were basically made to be destroyed. Moff Tarkin even once said that he pitied TIE pilots due to the sheer poor quality of the fighters. They were very fast and pretty manoeuvrable. However, unlike say an X-Wing, they really paled in comparison. They lacked shielding, torpedo tubes, and numerous other very useful pieces of equipment. Generally, the rule of flying these ships was avoid getting shot at all cost or else you're screwed. There was no room for error whilst piloting a TIE fighter. Now, you may be thinking, this isn't actually that bad. Realistically, in any dogfight, TIE fighters outnumber the enemy at least 5 to 1. So your chances of actually being hit and destroyed and losing a fight are pretty low. However, due to the lack of protection and shoddy engineering, it made many of these ships very easy to simply damage, not even destroy. Debris from explosions, even just being nipped by a blaster cannon, could damage your ship and make it relatively inoperable, and this is where things get really grim. Say your fighter's wing gets damaged, or its engine, and it's no longer going to be able to get back to the Star Destroyer or base which it was launched from. Well, what happens now? Well, realistically, you just drift around space, getting further and further away from the battle. And honestly, your chances of being rescued post the battle are probably 50-50 at best. If the Imperials are holding position, sure, they'll probably come and pick you up if they think you're alive. However, say if they were ambushed, or they need to redeploy somewhere else quickly, or just any situation that means that they aren't going to be there for long, realistically, you're going to be on your own. They're not going to try to go back and salvage or repair the spacecraft, because it's probably cheaper to just buy a new one, and rescuing you will probably take more resources than you're worth to them. At the end of the day, as I said, manpower was not lacking. So your chances of just being left are pretty high. In fact, TIE pilots only had 2 days worth of rations in their ships. They also had no life support systems, which is why they wear the full helmet. Realistically, I find it very likely that a huge amount of TIE pilots were left stuck inside their cramped cockpits drifting through space, where they would eventually die a slow and painful death, either due to lack of oxygen, freezing, starvation, or dehydration. The cockpit of that TIE fighter would just become their tomb. And I think that that's an incredibly horrific way to go. But I think that that's another reality of the Empire that we never touch on. We always talk about how brutal it must have been for stormtroopers. But in many situations, they actually had a fighting chance of surviving. If you're left drifting through space in a TIE fighter wreck, then you're screwed. But what do you guys think? What was life like for an Imperial pilot? And was it worth it? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching, I really do hope that you enjoyed this video. If so, please remember to like, share and sub, and follow me on Twitter at TheLoreGuy for regular updates. Most importantly, thank you so much for watching, really do hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.